Welcome to the Historical Society for this wonderful event. My name is Charlie Wiles. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Interfaith Cooperation, and it is an honor and a privilege to be here with you this evening, and for two reasons. One is, on behalf of the Lake Institute and the Center for Interfaith Cooperation, we are so excited to have Simran Jeet Singh with us this evening. He's going to share and impart some wisdom and hopefully help us shed light on how we can move forward in an interfaith space and grow in our inclusivity, understanding, and cooperation with one another across our faith differences. The Center for Interfaith Cooperation is located in the Indiana Interchurch Center, 42nd and Michigan Road. We always encourage you to stop in, say hello, have a cup of tea, and talk with us and learn how we can grow in that effort to create more peace and understanding through interfaith cooperation. And the second reason it's an honor and privilege to be here is I get to introduce a very dear friend, a mentor, a pioneer in the interfaith movement, a wonderful artist, a beautiful soul, an amazing human being, my friend, KP Singh. And I wanted to say one thing in introduction. KP's been so instructive to me and to our work at Center for Interfaith Cooperation, but the way he described interfaith relationships to me, I think resonated and hopefully will resonate with you as well. He mentioned it's like a beautiful crown that has many jewels, and each of our faith communities and traditions represent one of those beautiful jewels in that crown, and when one's illuminated, it can't help but illuminate the others. And that's always inspired my work, and I think it's a great way to think of how we can work together across faiths to create a better society and a better world. So now I get to introduce my good friend and mentor, KP Singh.
Thank you, Charlie. Charlie forgot to really mention that a crown doesn't mean he has to wear a turban. We all have a crown. We all have a soul that is deep within each one of us. The Sikh faith is really very clear on that subject. Sab mein jyot, jyot hai soe. The same divine light is enshrined and placed in each and every living being. And he is the father and mother of all creation. And so the question is asked over and over. Then tell me if it is the same divine light in each, and if it is the same God who is the father and mother of all creation, then who is holy and who is not worthy? That is the fundamental principle of Sikh faith in terms of equality and dignity of all life in any lifestyle, any culture, any faith, any religion. It does not say be a Sikh and then you will get a salvation. It says be the best that you can be, and that is your salvation. That is your emancipation. That's your road to emancipation. But I'm not here to give you all of that because there is going to be plenty of discussion about that. Let me just mention a couple of things that I'm only allowed a minute, but my minutes are a little bit longer than most people, so bear with me for a minute. First of all, we are delighted to have Simran Jeet Singh here, Simran Jeet Singh here with us. You always wanted to know something about what is in a name. What is in a name? In the Sikh tradition, there is a great deal in a name, as it is in other traditions. The word Simran means that somebody who it's meditation, it's veneration of the Holy One. It is about learning about that, reflection on that. That is what the word Simran means. Jeet means victor. Jeet means victory. Jeet means triumph. And the word Singh, which is the suffix for all Sikhs, as a part of the tradition, Singh means a lion. Now, you combine all those composites of those three words, somebody who meditates, somebody who has vanquished something or victor on something, and somebody who has the heart and the spirit of a lion, and that is what is our guest today. So you will be seeing a little bit of all those things. I've had the honor and pleasure to see some of the reviews of his book on the internet, and so I see that he was born in this country, faced all kinds of challenges as a young man, and I know a lot about challenges in Indiana. I've been here only 56 years and try to imagine where Indiana was 56 years ago versus today, that we have a distinguished Sikh guest to illuminate us and to inform us about things. The other thing I quickly wanted to say was that one of the principles that I have always followed is it is by learning that we are wiser. It's by learning we can dispel differences. It's by learning we can really remove our stereotyping of other people, other cultures, other faiths, and other communities. So it's wonderful to learn about other faiths, cultures, and communities, as Charlie just mentioned. The reason for that is not to in any way violate or transgress into another person's tradition or faith, our beliefs, our cherished values. It is simply to enlarge that tapestry, enlarge that possibility of our understanding about humanity as one family. And so I am really looking forward to hearing from, I'm sure that's what his book is all about, the light we bring, the light we give, and that is how does his thinking about the Sikh faith and traditions intersects with the interfaith traditions? How does it intersect with other traditions? Because we don't have a monopoly of light in terms of one faith or another. But this is what is important here, and that is there have been other traditions that have been part of our landscape, but Sikh faith is unknown. Sikh faith is new to the scene. And so in that sense, we really would love to hear the distinction that the Sikh faith brings into the mix. The last thing I want to say is that I saw that. I had met him some time back in Washington at some of your family members at the SALDAF event, and he comes from a very illustrious family. He comes from a very devoted family. He comes from a great family. One of his brothers, I think, played basketball with a turban and patka and beard and all of that, and it was a sensation in its own right. But what I wanted to say about him and his family and his book is simply this, and that is his family, including Simran Jeet Singh, they are dedicated to this thought that all dreams are not just for the asking, and just an expectation that why I don't have what somebody else has, the Irish have, or the people from Germany have, who have been here much longer than the Sikhs have. Sikh faith is dedicated to the thought of righteous labor and earning your place in life. And one of the ways that his book really, his reviews actually cover it very distinctly and beautifully. Our serving is the key. The word in Punjabi language, in the Sikh lexicon, is seva, that is tireless and selfless service of humanity. Even if you have to sacrifice something on your own of yourself. But seva is one of the big pillars of the Sikh faith. So what I wanted to say about his family was that it is his commitment to strive and serve and achieve and hard labor, if necessary, to earn any merit. We applaud that about you and your family. We know that Simran will offer us some insights into the upbringing, family values, and the teachings of the Sikh faith, and what he has learned, encountered, and overcame, and triumphed. Triumphed, Jeet is triumph. Triumphed in his young life. So, welcome. And for each of you who can, please, let's welcome him in Punjabi. Sat Sri Akal. And the second thing we want to say is, we welcome you. Ji Aya Nu. Ji Aya Nu. Sat Sri Akal.
Thank you so much, Charlie and KP. It's an honor to partner with the Center for Interfaith Cooperation and so many faith communities across Indianapolis to make this event possible. We're grateful for the ways that you continue to serve as leaders in helping the community build bridges that strengthen our communities across our religious diversity that I believe serves as a key component for our ability to then promote a healthy civil society here locally and beyond. And as a Karen Lake Buttrey, director of the Lake Institute on Faith and Giving, it's also my honor to welcome you to our distinguished visitor event tonight. For the past 20 years, the Lake Institute has sought to foster a deeper understanding of the way that faith inspires and informs giving through research, education, and public conversation just like this. We're proud to be embedded in the Indiana University Lilly Family School of Philanthropy, and across our academic programs and public trainings and our sister institutes, such as the Mays Institute on Diverse Philanthropy, the Women's Philanthropy Institute, our colleagues at the Fundraising School and beyond, we want to welcome you here with us tonight. In our work, we often seek to be a bridge between the academy and practitioners. So whether you're a leader in a nonprofit or a faith community, a lay person, or an engaged local citizen focused on issues of government or business, or intrigued by any of these questions, we are grateful that you are here. We believe that giving and generosity of all types are powerful forces that enrich our community. And it is certainly the case that faith, religion, spirituality have often played a vital role in the traditions, practices, and imagination of what generosity looks like. And again, with these questions in mind, it is an honor to host this particular conversation. Our Distinguished Visitor series has sought to bring key leaders whose work engages these core questions at the intersections of faith and giving, inviting them to the School of Philanthropy and to the city of Indianapolis, as well as those of you watching online from around the country. And we are hopeful that these conversations might spark something in your own imagination that you will take back into your work as well. And as KP mentioned, our distinguished visitor this evening is Dr. Simran Jeet Singh. Simran is the executive director of the Religion and Society program at the Aspen Institute and the author of the best-selling book, The Light We Give, How Sikh Wisdom Can Transform Your Life. And Simran's thought leadership on bias, empathy, wisdom, and justice extends across sectors from corporate, educational, and government settings. He's an Atlantic Fellow for Racial Equity with Columbia University and the Nelson Mandela Foundation, a Soros Equality Fellow with the Open Society Foundations, and in 2020, Time Magazine recognized him as one of 16 people fighting for a more equal America. Simran earned graduate degrees from Harvard and Columbia University and writes regularly for major outlets like the Harvard Business Review, Time, Religion News Service. And he's also authored the award-winning children's book, How Sikh Keeps Going, the true story of the oldest person to ever run a marathon. Another one worth getting. Born and raised in San Antonio, Texas, Simran now lives in New York City with his wife and 2 daughters, where he enjoys running, writing, and chasing those 2 kids. I know at Lake Institute we have been privileged to be engaged with and learn from the great work that Simran and his colleagues have developed at Aspen's Religion and Society program. Such work serves as a great model for the necessary work that we must attend to, addressing religious pluralism and the vital role it must play in our increasingly diverse society. I've found Simran to be such a thoughtful, reflective, empathetic leader as he serves as a key voice across our country for how we must address these core issues that we'll reflect on this evening. Welcome, Simran. And to begin our conversation with Simran this evening, we're honored to have with us the Reverend Libby Davis Manning. Libby is the director of the Wabash Pastoral Leadership Program. Housed at Wabash College, the Pastoral Leader Program serves early career Indiana pastors by forming 2-year peer learning cohorts anchored in rich dialogue with civic leaders. Libby leads these religious leaders to reflect theologically and adaptively on pressing social issues, convening important conversations for the public good here in Indiana, as well as exposing those same leaders across the U.S. and around the world. Libby's an ordained Lutheran ELCA minister and holds an Master's of Divinity degree from Trinity Lutheran Seminary in Columbus. And I'm proud to say she also serves as the chair of our Lake Institute Advisory Board. So Simran, thank you for being here, and Libby, thank you for opening up our conversation this evening.
What an honor to be with you, Simran. We welcome you to Indiana. So grateful for your time with us, and again, to share this space with you, quite an honor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we get into our questions and conversation, Simran, tell me, is this the first time you visited Indiana?
Not the first time in Indiana, but it's been a while.
Okay, let me tell you 2 things about Indiana Hoosiers and their generosity, Simran. First thing, you'll learn this in the museum if you have any time to spend time here in this beautiful place. But millions of years ago, glaciers came down and just sort of flattened the top half of our state. So just flatten that out. Southern part of the state has some hills and things, but with our head held high, we refer to Indiana as the land of horizontal beauty. Know that piece. Willa Cather, American novelist, said, anybody can love the mountains and the oceans. It takes somebody with soul to love the flatlands. So Simran, you're amongst Hoosiers with soul as you gather in this place, and we welcome you. We welcome you. But let's turn our attention to this masterful and wonderful book, The Light We Give. And in that book, you talk about your journey and the way that faith shaped that journey and was important in the ways that you navigated the many complexities of life in America. So tell us a bit more about that journey, and then note how faith was an asset to you in those years and in that navigation, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question, and thank you everyone for being here. I think maybe like KP Uncle, my father was the first turban Sikh to be settled in San Antonio. And my brothers and I growing up, we were the only boys with turbans in all of South Texas. And in many ways, we thought of ourselves as normal. We didn't think so much about religion, especially as kids. But we had a visible religious identity. We knew that we were different because people would tell us we were different. And part of our experience growing up as a minority community was trying to attend to that difference and understand what does it mean to live in a society where you want to be accepted for who you are, but you also have to deal with people's assumptions and stereotypes and judgments. And I'll just share a quick story with you about what this sort of looked like for me growing up. I remember in 4th grade, I went to my older brother's class party at a roller skating rink, and the manager, as we walked in, he started shouting at us, and he said, "Get out of here with those damn rags on your heads." And we weren't quite sure what to do. Racism wasn't new, but it was an authority figure. Luckily, our mom was with us, and she went to go talk to him, and we were waiting. And we started to get anxious because our friends were skating and we wanted to have fun with them. And after some time, I went to my mom to go figure out what was going on, and she turned around and she was crying. And I'd never seen her cry before. I just started crying too. And she put her arm around me and she said, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "Well, the same as you. Like, this isn't fair. They should let us skate." And she said, "Oh, I'm not crying because this is unfair. I'm actually crying because we're so lucky." And I looked at her and I was like, you must have no idea what's going on here, because there's nothing to feel lucky about. And she said, "Well, I shared with the parents and your classmates and the teachers what was happening, and they all decided to walk out together." And at the time I didn't have language for solidarity or allyship or these terms that I know now, but I know the feeling, and I felt it in that moment. And in reflecting on this experience as a kid, years later, I started to understand that actually what she chose to do in this moment, guided by her faith, was actually a really profound choice. The most obvious response in that situation is, and I think what I would feel most comfortable doing, even with my own kids now, is to walk away and say, we're not going to escalate. It's not a big deal. We'll go enjoy something else. And the other intuitive response, and the way we handle things in New York City, is she could have just yelled at the manager until she got her way, right? Like, that's also very natural, and those are the responses we know. That's fight and flight. And what my mom chose in this moment was to engage with compassion, to open herself up to her community, to her people, and give them a chance to show up as they wanted. And that feels so different from where we are culturally. We're so quick to run away or to fight back. And so thinking about what this openness, this trust, this engagement with others looks like in a moment of real stress, and also the power that she gained from that. Now, instead of feeling disempowered, imagine this nightmare scenario. Your kids are getting discriminated against, and there's nothing you can do. And she's walking away feeling fortunate, feeling like she had agency. And to me, this is where I started to understand the power of faith, that you can engage on a different way, take a different path than what we typically know. And that to me is where sort of openness and generosity and trust really started to build up.
What a beautiful testament. Thank you for that. I want to give thanks for wise mothers right now, right? Shaping our sons and daughters, shaping our communities. Absolutely. We gather in this space, Simran, the Indiana Historical Society, and that gives us the opportunity to talk about the history of the Sikh faith, some of its founding principles, and dig in there a little bit. Teach us a bit about the history and the founding principles of the Sikh faith. Many of us are probably more familiar with the Abrahamic faiths, perhaps, in the room.
Yeah. So the Sikh tradition is one of the world's youngest major traditions. It's the 5th largest in the world. There are almost 30 million Sikhs worldwide, most of whom live in what we would describe as the homeland of Punjab, which is in South Asia. It was established about 550 years ago now by a man named Guru Nanak. And he lived in a time that's actually not that different from today. It was a moment of intense cultural mixing, a lot of diversity, linguistic, ethnic, religious, and people were having trouble getting along. So that might sound familiar to us. And Guru Nanak looks at this social struggle, and he sees how frustrated and hurt people are. And he says there has to be a better way. And he offers this principle from Sikh philosophy, which is the foundational teaching. The first thing my parents learned when they were growing up in Punjab, the first thing I learned growing up in Texas, and the first thing I've taught my daughters is the term Ik Onkar, which means one universal force. And it is the premise of all Sikh philosophy. And I can sort of walk through some of it with you, but the idea is everything in this world is interconnected, that we are all interconnected. And part of the philosophy is there is not one aspect, one atom within this world that is not divine. This is the teaching of Ik Onkar. So when KP Uncle was saying, Sab mein jyot jyot hai soi, tisde chanan sab mein chanan hoy. This is a line we say every night as we go to bed. It's a teaching that there is divinity in every single creature. There's no creature that has more or less light within them. A corollary to that is if every individual is equally divine, then who are we to discriminate against anyone? So hierarchy is absolutely barred from our theological way of understanding the world, whether it's on the basis of caste, gender, race, religion, so on. It's not possible to live with hierarchy when you start from a premise of Ik Onkar. The next teaching that sort of builds on this is that if you can learn to live in a way where you feel connected, that's love. And this is the goal of existence within Sikh philosophy. One of the gurus writes, Raj na chao, mukat na chao, man preet charan kamlare. I don't care about Raj, I don't care about power. Mukat na chao, I don't even care about salvation. Man preet charan kamlare. All I want is to be in love. To us, in our tradition, love is the goal, and it's also the process. You become a loving person by practicing love every day. And what love looks like when it's made manifest in the world is justice. It comes through service. And this is a really important part of our teaching too. To be a truly spiritual, loving person is not to sit in your room or in the forest and meditate all day. It's to be engaged with the world and to ensure that you're reducing people's suffering, to really feel compassion for people and to help them make their lives better. Cornel West says, love is what justice looks like in public. Like, I love that. I think that captures the spirit of seva as we describe it in our tradition. And so those are the three I think, building blocks of Sikh teachings. It starts with ik onkar, a sense of oneness. This oneness becomes a feeling of love, and then love is put into action, and that's seva, or justice.
Lake Institute exists at the intersection of faith and giving. Tell us a bit about the Sikh teaching on giving and how it relates to daily living. Let's move the conversation into giving.
Yeah, I've actually been following quite a bit of the Lake Institute's work on giving, and here's what resonates with me that I think is simple and intuitive, and also we totally miss the boat on this culturally. And this is a teaching that I learned from the Sikh idea on seva, which is very different, I would say, than how we think about generosity or justice or activism in the West. And so I want to draw this distinction. In the West, we think about generosity, justice, activism as something we do for other people out of a moral responsibility. I think that's fair. I believe those things to be true. But I also think there's more to it than that. And we know this. Generosity and justice and service also benefit us, right? There's a reason why we say it's better to give than to receive. I mean, we've all felt that feeling of giving to somebody out of goodness. Like, what does it mean when we sacrifice for others? What does it mean when you take $1 out of your pocket that you could use for yourself and give it to somebody who needs it more than you? I mean, we've all felt that. And there's transformation that occurs through this. In our tradition, and in many spiritual and philosophical traditions, the source of human suffering is ego. The way to resolve ego is through practices that help you embody humility. Service and generosity are the practices. That's what gets us there. So I want us to start thinking about spirituality, generosity as a spiritual practice. Not just something that's for others. Yes, absolutely, it's for others. Not just something that is a moral responsibility, which it is, but also something that changes something inside of us, that makes us closer to who we want to become. The humble, selfless, empathetic, compassionate people that we aspire to be. And that's a teaching that I draw from Sikh philosophy, and when I see it lived out in the world. And it's, this teaching is not exclusive to Sikhs. It's not exclusively practiced by Sikhs. When I see it embodied in the world all throughout, those are the most beautiful expressions of love and generosity that I've seen. I'd love for us to start living that way.
Speaking of beauty and generosity, you open your book with this image of a little light, Simran. So there's a little light in the darkness, but the darkness didn't overcome it. And so that little light gave courage to another little light. And then the two little lights gave courage to another light. And soon there were lots of lights in the darkness. I think about that image because I wonder how might religious diversity promote a healthier civic society and bring some light to the present moments.
Yeah, thank you. Light is such a powerful metaphor, and it's one that's used in many religious traditions and scriptures. One of the reasons that I love it is because the light is always there. If we're sitting here in Indiana, it's nighttime, on the other side of the world, the light is shining. The sun is shining. It depends on your perspective. It depends on your positionality. Are you able to see the light? And part of what I learned through our tradition is it's a choice. You can always make a choice to see the light. And the other part about it, if we think about this, if we understand that light is emanating in each of us, then that means we're always giving light. Light is something that we can bring into the world. Again, it's a choice. We can share it. And I think this way of understanding human diversity, it's in many ways it's really simple, right? Like I have 2 young kids, a kindergartner and a 2nd grader. They get this idea, right? It's not that hard. And yet we live in such a way where it feels increasingly difficult to see the light in the people around us. That can be on the basis of political difference, religious difference, geographical distance. I mean, it could be all sorts of things. But it feels hard to see people's light. And so I think, to me, what's become a really powerful practice is to stop our attempts to understand diversity begin from a place of difference. And what I think about, especially coming from the tradition that I come from, what would it look like for us to start from a place of connectedness? And then the diversity as we encounter it is no longer threatening because it's a manifestation of the oneness. I think that's a different model for engaging with difference, one that moves us towards a more civic pluralism, one in which we can live alongside one another without feeling threatened or fearful, in a way that just feels so toxic and hurtful right now.
I appreciate that so much. As we think about that, Simran, how does religious diversity in particular contribute to that civic society? How can we recognize the value of religious pluralism in our civic spaces and do that work better?
It's really hard. And I think it's particularly hard in the American context where we don't know how to talk about religion in public settings. And we are a deeply religious country with lots of history around religious formation. And so one of the challenges is, what do you do when religion is in the room, but you don't know how to address it? Typically, our answer has been you ignore it. Like, let's not talk about it. And what we've seen through what we could call an approach of, well, let's take race as an analog. This might be helpful. For the past 40 or so years, since the civil rights movement, we've taken a race-blind approach, color blindness, and said, I don't see color, I'm not racist, I don't care about it. But what happens is, when we don't talk about it, we miss the realities and the complexities of what's swirling all around us constantly. To take a race-conscious approach is to say, I'm not racist, I don't want to be racist, but let's talk about these things, and let's figure this out together. And I think the difference between the two is honesty. Are we willing to be honest about the hard conversations, the stuff that's uncomfortable, the realities of our world? And if we can start to be honest about them, then we can move forward. But until we do that, I don't know how we make progress. I mean, one of the realities of our society, and we haven't had this conversation culturally yet, or as a country, is that there is real inequity that exists in this country on the basis of religious difference. I mean, it's true. I've experienced it my whole life, and I know other people have too. I mean, I can give you all sorts of examples. The one that comes to mind immediately, KP Uncle mentioned my brother who played basketball, which is a sore spot for me because I'm cooler and better at basketball.
Of course, Simran, of course.
I also played basketball, but my older brother, who was probably the best basketball player of all of us, had to sit out his high school basketball because he wore a turban, and it was against the policies. He had to petition to get that changed to be able to play. I mean, it might feel trivial in some ways, right? Like it's just basketball. But this is what does a high school kid who loves basketball care about more in his life? Like, it's super hard. And so getting to a place where we can start talking specifically and honestly about what discrimination looks like, what equality would look like, what it would look like for us to get to a place where everyone was on equal footing in the way that we talk about as an ideal in this country. I mean, we're not there. In many ways, religion is not the only issue. But if we're thinking about religious pluralism, I think really getting to a place where we can have the honest conversations around what it looks like and what it would look like to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to thrive.
And how we might work with our civic leaders and invite connection into faith communities to work toward that religious diversity and pluralism.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only way.
Yeah.
It's the only way. Having everyone in, having people with influence of all types who are willing to show up for you. I mean, this example about basketball, my younger brother who played, there was a game where the referee and the other coach were refusing to let him play. And the only reason he was able to is because his coach went to bat for him. I mean, it's how this country works. It's how the world works. We need people with power and influence to really help move the needle.
Yeah. And we want to move that needle beyond just religious tolerance towards a more powerful model of religious pluralism in this country that sees all the differences as so very valuable and contributive towards civic society and not threatening. Until then, we won't tap into the fullness of humanity. And so help us think more expansively about that. Moving past just tolerance into deep appreciation for. How do you see that path forward for us, Simran?
Yeah, I mean, I don't imagine we're breaking any ground by saying that the bar of tolerance is not high enough, and pluralism is the goal. And I think your question's right on, that the challenge is not identifying the goal, it's the pathway to getting there. I'll say too often we presume that if we live our lives and aim to be good people and live according to our values, that things will solve for themselves. And in a lot of ways, that's a good life. The challenge is, and we know this too, it's hard to develop any qualities without practicing. And that's true, I mean, it's true in sports, it's true in music, it's also true in living civically. In our culture, we don't learn the skills or the competencies of being a fellow citizen. I mean, where would you learn these? And the truth is, they're actually not that hard. You know, the place to begin is, if we're thinking about something like empathy and compassion for your neighbor, the place to really begin is by listening, by being curious, by learning about them. Curiosity in a context like today's is really hard. We are receiving messages constantly that we're not supposed to ask questions about people, and especially not to them. We are being told there are certain things we don't talk about. In a context where we're so polarized and politicized, we're scared to have conversations with people about what makes them who they are, right? Like, I feel these fears too. And so developing skills and competencies around something like having a conversation with someone, right? David Brooks' new book, How to Know a Person, is all about the skills that it feels almost ridiculous to say this, right? Like, how to know a person, like, do we really need to be taught this? And the reality is, yes. Like, if you look at where we are right now, yes, absolutely, we need to learn. And in some ways, this is sort of like the conversation we were having at lunch. In some ways, this is like, put the ego aside, put the pride aside, and recognize that the basic things that we should know, we don't. The basic things we should have been taught, we haven't been. It's not necessarily our fault, but it's our responsibility to figure it out. And I think beginning with humility, with the very elementary steps of how do you have a conversation with someone? How do you listen to someone? How do you open yourself up to someone? How do you share your story? I think these sorts of things they're skills. We need to start learning them, and that's not going to happen until we prioritize them.
It's almost like going back to the basics and learning some new muscles for civic engagement and being neighbor and living in neighborhood. And yeah, that's really interesting. Would you offer us some examples from your work, Simran, with Aspen Institute or the World Economic Forum, how you've put what you've shared with us into practice?
Yeah, and I mean, I could give you I give you a lot of feel-good stories. There are plenty of them. But I'll share one that is not as feel-good, but one that I am actually most proud of. And that is some really tough conversations we've been facilitating around religious freedom, which in this country in particular is a highly politicized, hotly contested debate, controversy. I mean, especially if you've been following recent Supreme Court rulings. Some people will say religious freedom has been hijacked by the left. Some people will say religious freedom is hijacked by the right. And what we said is, why don't we get the people who have these different beliefs together and talk about what religious freedom is to them? And what we found was that the people who have their positions, right? Like, that's not what we're trying to change. But what we wanted to do is for people to have enough decency and respect to listen to people who have different views than them. And I'll tell you, like, if you try and do this in our current political context through news media, like, you're never going to find in openness to receiving a different perspective, because they're so they're packaged so negatively, and so when you get people in a room together and you can see the earnestness of their position, and one person listens to it and they say, "Oh, I haven't thought of that before. That's an interesting point." Like, that's enough to start opening people up. And so I won't say that we've come to a place where there's consensus in this group on what religious freedom means or what it would look like. But I think getting to a place where people can respect each other's positions, where they no longer think that that person is malicious or hateful because of their views, where they no longer think that that person is the devil because of the positions that they take, I think that's a big win, especially given where we are today.
I think that's really important. I'm reading things that suggest the other side thinks the opponents are out to destroy democracy, and so that's where the conversation ends and the polarization continues.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate your thoughtfulness. Simran, what might be some ideas for nurturing interconnectedness in this time of polarization that we just described, and remembrance in civic society, since so much fosters that division and that polarization? How do we weave again and create interconnectedness?
Yeah, I mean, the best answer I know is local. We have a tendency, I think especially younger generations, including my own, we have a tendency to try and solve all the world's problems at once. We look at issues at scale and we say, oh, the country is polarized, like we need to bring the country together. And the reality is, I think, A, that's unfeasible in this moment, and B, it's ineffective, and it leaves us feeling frustrated and angry and outraged, and it doesn't really get us very far. What I find to be more powerful is to do this in local communities, places where you are, interpersonal interactions, and there you can see an opportunity for influence and change in the people with whom you're engaging, but also a transformation in yourself. And I think understanding that this is a two-way project. It's not just about changing the world around you, it's also about the internal work that happens as you start engaging with people and seeing their humanity in ways that might feel really difficult. I think that's part of the game, or at least part of the goal of what we're trying to do here.
We talked about traditions and values within the Sikh faith earlier, but talk to us about practices of gratitude from your tradition, particularly ones that would spark our imagination for next steps for this good work of interconnectedness within the local communities.
Yeah, gratitude is one of these themes that cuts across traditions, and I think for good reason. It brings us perspective. It brings us humility. it helps us feel connected. I mean, so I have my girls, for Thanksgiving, my mom gave them gratitude journals. And it's reminding me of a practice that I used to have and that I've left behind, but I've restarted it now with my kids. It's three things. This is what their journals are, and this is the practice that I have, which is just three things that you're grateful for that day. And I'll tell you, it's funny how the simple practices are the most powerful ones, but what I've noticed in my girls and in myself is, at first when they started, it would be a struggle. Like, they would sit there at the end of the day and they would like try and figure out, oh, what was something good that happened today? And as you know, it's only been a few weeks since Thanksgiving at this point. As the weeks have gone by, what I'm noticing is, during the day, they're thinking, oh, this amazing thing happened, I'm gonna write that in my journal later. Like, they're feeling gratitude in the moment of the thing that's happening. And that's the transformation. In the Sikh tradition, what we talk about, and my name, Simran, means remembrance. And the idea is, what I was describing before, if you can feel connected at all times, then you are able to feel love. We've all felt love in our lives, right? In our different forms. Relationships, partners, parents, kids, whatever. The promise of the spiritual practice, and I think gratitude does this, the promise of spiritual practice is you can have that feeling with you at all times. This is what gratitude enables. I remember this this moment right after 9/11. So 9/11, I was 18 when 9/11 happened. We locked up at home. The death threats started coming that day. And after a few days, I went downstairs, and my dad, he was looking out the front door, and I was walking by him, and he said, aren't we so lucky? And again, I'm 18, I don't want a lesson from my dad, and especially not at this time, and I sort of roll my eyes, and I'm like, what's your point? And he says, well, haven't you noticed that your friends have been coming by to check in on you? Your neighbors have been bringing meals for us. Aren't we lucky to have so many people who care about us? And I think what was happening for me in this moment, that was the end of the conversation. He didn't have a moral that he tied to it, but he didn't really have to, because I got it. What I realized was, in this moment that felt especially dark, right? We felt attacked as Americans and what was happening to our country. We felt attacked as Sikhs and what was happening to our community. We've been locked up at home and weren't leaving. And I just felt like everything was horrible. And all those things were true, right? These were real feelings. And it was also true that people were coming by, that people cared about us, that we were lucky. And I hadn't made the choice to see the good stuff too. And I think in a moment like now, I've been thinking about this a lot the last few weeks especially, in a moment like now where everything feels hard and heavy, it's really natural to fall into that trap of negativity. And to me, this practice of gratitude, and part of why I've enacted it more recently, is because I find myself needing this reminder that, hey, there is good stuff out there. And this is not sugarcoating, and it's not toxic positivity. It's being wide-eyed about the realities of our world, that there is beautiful stuff and hard stuff at the same time. And sometimes it's hard to remember the beautiful stuff.
There's beautiful stuff and hard stuff all at the same time. Appreciate that wisdom and that truthfulness. I think this might be a good time to invite David and Melissa and Joseph onto the stage. We're going to expand the conversation a bit. Simran, thank you. Thank you for that. As they make their way up, we'll get microphones set.
Well, thanks, Simran. Thank you, Libby, for helping us start that conversation. And we are grateful for making space for this kind of conversation, and wanted to invite some dear friends and colleagues to join our circle, panel, conversation. But just to introduce them briefly to you, many of you may know Joseph and Melissa. Joseph Tucker Edmonds is an associate professor of Africana Studies and Religious Studies here at Indiana University, IUI, or IUPY. Is also the associate director of the Center for the Study of Religion and American Culture. And his research addresses intersections between Black religion and the body, with a particular focus on agency, care, and wellness. And thinking about the work of scholars and publicly engaged leaders in our city, Joseph is a founding member of the Black Health Equity Working Group at IUPY on the Center for Africana Studies and Culture, and is currently working with the local NAACP branch, working with the 4 largest hospital systems to address disparate health outcomes in the Black community here in Indianapolis. He's received a number of different awards and fellowships, one from most recently from the Indiana Humanities, working on some collaborative community engaged research on the history of Black women's agency in the Phyllis Wheatley YWCA here in Indianapolis. I could continue on with books and articles, but Joseph is an advocate for equitable and justice-centered educational programs at IUPY and across the city. He works particularly with a number of local school districts, serving on the board of Horizons, St. Richard's Episcopal School, and Blake Institute on Faith and Giving. Lives here in Indianapolis with his wife and his daughter as well. Melissa Borja is an assistant professor of American culture at the University of Michigan, where she's a core faculty member in Asian Pacific Islander American Studies program. She researches migration, religion, politics, pluralism, and race in the U.S. and the Pacific world, with a particular special attention to how Asian American religious beliefs and practices have developed in the context of pluralism in the modern American state. Her most recent book, which I recommend highly to you, Follow the New Way, American Refugee Resettlement Policy and Hmong Religious Change, from Harvard University Press, draws on oral histories and archival research to investigate the religious dimensions of American refugee policy, how governments have expanded capacity through partnerships with religious organizations, and how refugee policies have shaped the religious lives of refugees. Also an avid public scholar, Dr. Borja is a senior advisor to Princeton University's Religion and Forced Migration Initiative, a national program that aims to improve understanding of the role that religion plays in the lives of refugees as they resettle here in the United States. And is an affiliated researcher with the Stop AAPI Hate Reporting Center, which is a remarkable effort which unites scholars and community leaders to analyze and prevent hate incidents targeting Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in particular. She earned a Ph.D. in history from Columbia University, an MA from University of Chicago, and her bachelor's degree from Harvard University. And while teaching at the University of Michigan, she is a proud Hoosier living downtown in Indianapolis with her family as well. So thank you both for joining us, and thank you both for sort of engaging with Simran in this question. So maybe I could start, Melissa, with you, and then turn to Joseph. What did you hear from the conversation and sort of Simran led us to open up that you want to kind of ask for more in that kind of conversation?
So I love all the stories you shared about your conversations with your parents. That was maybe my favorite part. I'm also an Asian American immigrant kid and have had lots of interesting conversations about what it means to put values into practice and how that can look different across generations sometimes. And we know in Asian American studies that there are big differences often between how first and second generation Asian Americans think about what justice looks like. And so my big question to you is, when it comes to Sikh values, do you see changes in how Sikhs of different generations in the U.S. are defining, redefining, and putting Sikh values into practice?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it's real in a lot of ways. I think one is one follows more typical patterns among immigrant communities, which is early generations get established, and younger generation or newer generations have opportunities to engage in different ways. And I think that's absolutely true from what I see from my parents and their friends versus what I'm seeing from, second generation. I think another element that feels very alive to me is, at least within Sikh circles here in the States, there is an awareness of historical challenges that we've gone through that are informing continued engagement. So in 1947, Punjab was partitioned. It was the largest mass migration in human history, 1 million killed. Everyone knows someone who's affected. It was that kind of thing. About 40 years later, there's anti-Sikh violence in Punjab. Again, massive impact on the Sikh community. And then here in the States, 9/11 was a big moment for the community. And so there are these multiple moments that that sort of remind us that we don't have a home, and make us feel displaced. And I think that challenge of, and the insecurity that comes with that, of ensuring that we need stability, we need safety, and we don't feel it anywhere. Like, it's not here, it's not in India, where would it be? That's something that I think we're seeing animating a lot of the activism and justice efforts among the Sikhs here in the diaspora. Yeah.
I would love to, build on that a little bit, because one of the things that I loved in your text that I thought was so useful was the way in which you talk about the failure of language to sometimes do the work that we needed to do, right? You talk about love, when you're talking to Libby, you were talking a little bit about light. Even now, you brought up this term home, right? And, kind of safety. And so I want us to think together, or I want to hear some from you about how and where can we do that kind of work in terms of reframing or rethinking language. Because I often think, when I was even hearing you talk a little bit earlier this evening, that language is often overdetermined by the colonial settler mentality, right? It's overdetermined by capital or something of that nature. So how do we resist that? How do we have a larger and more expansive understanding of light, of love, of home, of family? How do we do that work daily?
Yeah. I'd love to hear what you all have to say about this. I mean, I could talk for days. The one thing that I'll say that I think is crucial, and again, my bias coming from my tradition is like ego is the problem. American exceptionalism is the problem. And this idea that we have a better way of understanding the world than everyone else, that we should be exporting our ideas instead of opening ourselves up to the possibility that there's real wisdom elsewhere. I mean, that precludes us from the possibility of learning from all this, this entire world of ideas that could change how we think. And so I think part of the solution for me is getting to a place where we have some humility about and this is not something to be ashamed of. Every language has limitations. Every culture has a particular way of seeing things. It's fine. It is what it is. But like the sort of bounded, limited, rigid approach to it has to be our way prevents us from opening ourselves up. And I think that humility would go a long way in that. I don't know if you have more thoughts to this, but.
Yeah, Melissa, Joseph, would you want to follow up with there at all?
I just want to say humility is very countercultural, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't hear a lot of valuing of humility in general. And it's funny, I was just the other day telling one of my students she needs to boast a little bit more when she's writing her cover letters in her CV. And so it seems very interesting. I don't think I've ever told anyone recently, no, you should be more humble. Yeah, but maybe I should. Maybe I should be more humble.
Yeah, Melissa, I think it's not an American value. I do think it's a faith value. And so how can the faith teachings be more pronounced there?
And it is that question of like that intersection of humility, and I think you talk about in the book, like also imposter syndrome, right? Like how do we how do we kind of marry or hold both of those at the same time, right?
Yeah.
That we are telling young Black and brown boys and girls to, kind of name who they are, to lift up their tradition, to talk about their memories and their experiences, at the same time to also be good listeners, right? And also to be good students, right? And I think that that is, really a part of the challenge that you narrate throughout the text. But I think that a lot of other folks in this room that really experience on a day-to-day basis. Like, what does it mean to have humility, but also to kind of really name this experience and to name what we offer and bring to the conversation, the light that we give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get a text from a friend today who's reading the book. Well, he's not that good of a friend because the book's been out for a year, but he's a friend. And he texted me a joke that I made that was self-deprecating. And my humor is often self-deprecating. I feel comfortable that way. And so he was just pointing it out. He's making fun of me for making fun of myself. And I was just thinking about it today about, why is it that I'm so much more comfortable with that kind of humor? And I understand that these things are racialized, these things are gendered, right? Like, we are often told that we're not good enough and we don't belong, and so we internalize that throughout our lives, and then it feels normal, it feels appropriate, and we have to undo what we've learned. But I'll tell you, like, the insight that helped me think about this differently, because I had heard my whole life, we have to be humble. I didn't really understand what that meant, and it was C.S. Lewis who I saw this quote, humility is not thinking less about yourself, it's thinking about yourself less. And I love wordplay, first of all, I love C.S. Lewis, and then that quote just hit me. But I think that to me is, at least for so many of us where we don't really know what humility would look like, to have an understanding that it's not about a lack of confidence, but it's about putting yourself alongside everyone else, not beneath them, not above them.
I have a question about local context. May I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Okay. You've lived in a lot of different places. I love knowing that you're from Texas. You live in New York City. We are now in the beautiful state of Indiana. And you, in your role, have had a chance to do a lot of work on the national and global level. Earlier in the conversation, you said that the work we need to do needs to be very local. And so I wonder, based on your life experiences and your professional work now, examples of how putting these values that you've discussed today can look different in different local contexts, and especially if there are examples from Indiana that we could hear, or other flat places.
Or other flat places, yeah.
Horizontal beauty.
Exactly.
Okay.
Language.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'll make a case every day for the local interpersonal place as the location for transformation. I think that is something everyone can and should do. I also think we need systemic and institutional change, and that's not necessarily something that everyone will be able to do, will be equipped to do, but the local stuff is for everyone. It's true that it looks different in different places. And I'll say it's not even constrained by geography. I don't think geography is the right lens to understand this. I think maybe a better way to say this, and something that may feel more natural to people, is to say, understand your audience and speak their language, meet them where they are. And I think that also is a practice in humility, right? Like, if I'm going to, I have conservative Baptist friends in Texas. If I'm talking to them about this stuff in the same way that I'm talking to my progressive friends in New York, like, it's not going to work. And I might feel good about, the things that I'm announcing because they stroke my ego, but it's not going to change them, and it's not going to change me. And so I think meeting people where they are is really maybe a more meaningful way to think about what a close personal interaction looks like with regard to, especially with regard to difference.
I mean, you talk a lot about, and I love this in the book. You talk a lot about practice, right?
Yep.
As a sports fan and as a sports player, you talk about that. And I think that one thing, Melissa, that the local allows for us to do, and I'd love to hear you talk more about this, is to kind of practice daily, practice in close proximity, practice, in ways where we're allowed to fail or allowed to fall, where some other spaces don't allow for that, right? And so the local does maybe provide something for that. And so, I would love for you to talk to us and to everyone a little bit more about practice as a discipline, and like how the local maybe does provide for that across all ages.
Yeah, I think one of the missing elements in our culture today is grace. Like, there's no grace for any kind of mistake. And it's especially in a public context, right? Like, if you post something on Facebook or Instagram that is the quote-unquote wrong position, you're in trouble. Yeah. And if you do it in front of your class, you're still in trouble. Wherever you are in public, like, this is where a lot of the fear is coming from. And it's paralyzing, and it prevents the possibility of trying things out and being comfortable with the reality that, like, none of us are perfect at any of this. So I think that's really true, what you're saying. It rings true for me. In the Sikh disciplinary tradition, it talks about the Gurdwara, the place of worship, as the training ground for seva. So talking about justice and activism, the Gurdwara is the training ground for seva. It's not the end point, but it's where you learn how to live in the world and to really go out and serve the world. And I think that would be a nice way for us to think about our local communities, like our friendships, our families. I think one of the things I think about a lot as I'm raising these kids is they're not going to learn how to have these conversations at school. They're not going to learn them from pop culture. Where are they going to learn them? Their friends aren't going to teach them. Like, it has to start at home. So thinking about what are the training grounds for practice, and then making sure that we're prioritizing that there actually is a consistent engagement so that we can get there.
You mentioned sort of more than just moral responsibility. Generosity is a spiritual practice, and that's one of the takeaways that I'll take from tonight. Another one is, we know religion is in the room, but we don't know how to address it. Mm-hmm. And alongside our horizontal beauty, we have a sense of some Midwest nice that's tied into who we are as Hoosiers, not just us in Indiana, but Melissa, Joseph, I wonder, we have a lot of scholars of religion here on the stage or attending to this kind of work. How have you seen religion, not only in your scholarship, but in the public work you do here in the city and beyond? Like, how can we find ways where we know it's there and we don't know how can we help engage, empower faith communities or greater understanding, deeper understanding on these topics in the work that we do?
And I'll just throw this out. One of the things that I love the scholar Marla Frederick, and she talks, and her text is called Between Sundays, and it's a beautiful text because I think it's kind of connecting to what you just said. If it's on Sundays where we practice, the question is what's happening in between those Sundays, or on Saturday, or on Friday, or whatever your faith tradition is. And I think part of how we learn to talk better about religion is when we see it in action in other places that are not overdetermined by theological or liturgical or traditional language, right? When we see it happening, right? When we see someone, loving and showing compassion and kindness, when we see it happening on Wednesday and Friday and all those other days, I think that's what it does. And my experience has been that as I've worked with religious communities here, and particularly Black religious communities here in Indiana and Indianapolis, is that when we talk more about those things that are happening on Tuesday night and Wednesday afternoon, is that when people can begin to build bridges and really talk more profoundly about why they're doing what they're doing, what powers that work, right? And how they got to this kind of end goal or this product. And that can be really transformative, right? To kind of move away from that. And I think that we don't do that necessarily that well in Indianapolis or in Indiana or in the Midwest.
It is a challenge, though, that there are a lot of people who don't have a religion now.
That's true.
A religious affiliation. I mean, that is a very large group in the U.S., and it's growing. And so I wonder what happens when we try to name religion as a force that motivates people in a society where there are a lot of people who feel, for various reasons, uncomfortable with naming their beliefs and practices as religious, intentionally don't have a religion. Like, what does that mean for all of what we discussed tonight?
That's a great point. And at this point, I'd love if there is a question that you all have from the audience. We have some microphones here at the bottom, so feel free to make your way down. I wanted to throw one more question out there. Simran, maybe you can start, and Melissa and Joseph jump in. We are more attentive to questions of diversity, equity, inclusion, justice, and hopefully that continues to grow. But sometimes religious diversity gets left out of some of those larger questions, or we don't know how to deal with it. I know that's been a part of some of your work, helping attend to what that might mean in a larger conversation. Any words of wisdom for us there in some of the work that you've done?
Yeah, I mean, so I think religion gets left out for a few different reasons. We don't know how to talk about it. That's one. There are legal constraints, especially in the workplace. That's the second one. But I think the biggest one is religion, more so than other issues, maybe. Religion's really volatile. It can be really volatile, and we don't want to offend people. And the point of this DEI work is to help figure out how to bring people together. And religion can be really divisive, and that's a challenge. So I absolutely get the fears around addressing religion. And I think that, to your question about the Midwest, nice, like, I think that's also part of it, right? Like, we don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And I think my question would be, what do we risk by not talking about it? What's lost? And I would make the case that the risk is greater if we can't learn how to talk about religion than if we try and we mess up here and there. And so I think that's one way of thinking about that question. The other one is, and this maybe is a little bit more tactical, typically the aspects of identity that are discussed within the DEI framework are protected categories, and religion is one of them. And so to make the case that, and I mean, part of what we see happening is we'll talk about race, gender, sexual orientation primarily, but there's more to it than that, and understanding that that religion is a really important way or identity category for people, just as disability is, right? And so bringing it forward through this lens, which is to say, this is what you are already doing, this is what you say you're doing, like this is something that you should lift up as well. I think that's been an effective strategy for me.
I've been thinking about this issue quite a bit because I do a lot of DEI work in my own institutional context, and religion often gets left out. I think one dimension that makes it very uncomfortable to talk about is people have a hard time acknowledging directly that Christians have a lot of power in the United States. Mm-hmm. I think it's very easy to say white people enslaved black people. Mm-hmm. I think it's very easy to say white people created laws that prevented Chinese people from migrating. It's very uncomfortable to name Christian power and Christian normativity. And so until we're ready to do that, we can't have the conversations about power differentials that are essential
DEI conversations.
Exactly. I mean, I love that point, Melissa, and I think that that's one of the things that happened during the Black Lives Matter movement is that when some of the activists who were not coming from a normative Black Protestant tradition or what we might have named a Black church tradition said, hey, we are all here fighting for justice. We're all here looking for a better or a different version of the United States, of the world, of the way that we're going to share and belong together, but we don't hold in common, right, this kind of normative or dominant category of Christianity that has usually been associated with Black folks, right? That led to a little bit of an upheaval, but I think a productive and positive one. And so, that was not necessarily happening in the kind of the safe DEI spaces that's happening on our campuses or some of our jobs, but I think we've got to think about how difficult that is and try to create spaces where we can do that, right? Where we can talk about, that broad diversity. And that along with some of these categories comes some levels of privilege, right? That we have not been willing, or at least up until this point, not really desired to talk about as openly and freely.
We get to keep talking about this until someone asks a question.
I'd love to not have folks be shy. We've got a couple people coming. Charlie, we've got a microphone over here too. If you want to.
Yeah, I'll jump in with a question. Yeah, thank you for this wonderful conversation. I've been doing this work for 12 years. There's nuance that's coming about now, and it's interreligious, interfaith, multi-faith. And I don't know if you could speak to that a little bit. And I know earlier we talked about intra-faith. And so often I think when we look monolithically at our faith, Christianity is something that I left when I was 14 and returned to after my mother died, so I did church with my father. And so just I guess the interfaith conversation seems to be very rich and even more challenging sometimes than the interfaith or interreligious or multi-faith. So I don't know if that gives you a little something to talk
about. I'm happy to start. We had a good conversation about this earlier. And we talked a little bit about sort of historicizing these terms and these movements. And again, like this is one of those things where you could say it's semantics, right? Like, does it really matter what the distinction is? And the reality is for some people, it does really matter. Do people feel comfortable putting their traditions in such close proximity with one another that they're worried they might get watered down, right? That's part of the argument against interfaith and for multi-faith. So you have a plurality, but they're not necessarily so closely knit together. I understand that, and I think those, we've sort of talked through this. I think these are important and active conversations. I think the one piece that I'd want to bring to bear, and this is sort of mostly because I'm excited by the last round of conversation we had, and I want to sort of add something in there. Melissa, your colleague at Michigan, Tomoko Matsuzawa, has this incredible book called The Invention of World Religions, and I would highly recommend it to anybody who's interested. But it's one of these things where we know the world we know, and we often take for granted the categories that are available to us. And sometimes a historian comes along and says, actually, that thing, it hasn't always been this way. We didn't always organize the world on the basis of world religions. And there's a history to that, and there's a politics to that. And one of the things that I think is really important for us to start doing is interrogating the entire enterprise of interfaith, not for the purpose of tearing it down, but for understanding the Christocentrism that is produced by it. Not just that it's produced by, but also that it's continually reproducing. I think that is something that is a really important aspect of progress as we move into a really sincere, authentic version of what interfaith or multi-faith could look like. So.
I want to say one thing I always say, and I think it's so hard for us to think about, and you said this earlier, when we're thinking about like interfaith or multi-faith, oftentimes those are spaces that can, depending on your subject and political position, be safer for you than others, right? Yeah. Some of us are not able to or don't feel as free in some of those spaces. And so I think that we have to contextualize that history, about who has determined and controlled that narrative, who has had the dominant voice in those dialogues or in those engagements, and often who has been excluded or not allowed to be at those tables, right? And so in many ways, and I think, historically we can see examples of this, is that sometimes the resistance to an interfaith or a multi-faith discussion was about protecting one's subjectivity over and against a dominant or, a really, absolutist kind of model that was trying to flatten, Sikhism, or trying to flatten Black faith tradition, or trying to, flatten something else in order to kind of highlight or lift up or privilege a singular ideology.
Just an example of that to make it clear is indigenous traditions or African tribal traditions, right? What are those categories? Like, and why do we not include them in our understanding of interfaith or world religion or so on? I mean, they're not included at the table when it comes, and there's a politics behind that. So it's a really good point. Yeah.
I study shamans, Hmong shaman or practitioners of shamanism, and sometimes they don't want their practices to be described as religious. There was a case in Minnesota where a Hmong man who was stabbed asked that the stabber pay for the cost of his shaman healing ceremony, and the stabber said, "That's a religious ceremony. I can't be required to pay for a religious ceremony." And the Hmong man said, "It's a cultural thing that allows him to heal." And so sometimes it's useful to say something is religious. We give a lot of power to the category of religious in the United States. But sometimes it's not useful. Sometimes it's harmful to someone's cause. And so lots of people are in a very tricky situation in navigating these categories. I would say one other thing, there's a lot of really interesting work that could be done related to intra-religious, intra-faith work. And I think about the danger sometimes in our discourse to say the word Christian. These are people who are Christian. I did that earlier. They're Christian, but there are lots of different types of Christians. And we saw that on display here in Indiana when we saw the debate about abortion access, the debate around SB1. There were Christians on both sides. And I think it's hard for us to make space for the differences that exist within religious communities.
You see the fun work at Lake Institute. It's not only the difficulties of understanding faith and religion, but it's the same kinds of complexities when we're talking about giving and generosity. We've got a great question over here.
You already say that. I put it in writing only because I'm really cold and I didn't want to shiver through the question in a way that was awkward. So first, I really appreciated hearing the entire talk tonight, conversation. Earlier in the evening, JTE, Joseph Tucker Edmonds, mentioned that language is so overdetermined by settler colonialism and that the limits of the English language, I'm saying this now, in general, are very profound. As I listened to your opening talk, Simran, I began wondering, as I heard you share that the Sikh faith does not believe in hierarchies, and I was super intrigued. Yet it sounds like, and admittedly I've not read the book, I'm looking forward to it, so perhaps it's only a small part, but it sounds like your philosophy concerning light perceives it as something higher than or to be preferred over darkness. As a Black queer woman of faith, sometimes I experience people seeing my Blackness as a constituent part with darkness. And for me, this feels like it is fueled by the promulgation of light and dark dichotomies. In what ways might this concept contribute to anti-Blackness? And what ways might we reframe your concept of light in light of this space of linguistic or semantic dissonance?
Yeah, that is a question. Oof. I don't have a good answer. I hear that. I hear the challenge. I think I'd have to think about that. No, it's such a good question, and it
is. I want to kind of add to that too, because I do think that one of the things that, just kind of building off of Melissa, we were talking about intrafaith, and I think that as I was reading the book too, I was wanting to hear more, about the different segments of Sikh religious traditions that you maybe were a part of or moved, and maybe they have different understandings of light. Maybe they have different understandings of gender roles, right? Maybe, kind of talking about the variety, because in some ways, the text, as most texts have to do, we collapse ideologies and terms and communities, right? So, Sikhism is presented as a kind of a unified set of beliefs and values in the text. And I'm sure you can unpack for us right now that it's not, that there are different branches and different traditions that operate within it. And kind of how do you talk about that as it relates to maybe other groups that have thought about the problematic categories, or some ways in which categories have not fully lived up to what the tradition wants them to.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think I can speak to that, but it won't answer. It won't address your question. But it is something that I'll give some thought to. It's so on the one hand, yes, it's absolutely true that the Sikh tradition, like any tradition, is internally diverse. That there are people who interpret the tradition differently, who read it differently, who live it differently. And it doesn't manifest itself in the same way that you would see in other traditions, right? So we don't have sort of a denominational structure in the way that might be familiar to you. I'll tell you, one of the real challenges of writing this book is that I am a scholar of the tradition, I'm a practitioner, and I'm also on the activist side of the tradition. I work for a civil rights organization that focuses on Sikh issues. And I'm aware of the challenges that come with announcing, hey, this is what we believe, because that has a homogenizing effect, as in, this is what all Sikhs believe, which I know is not true. And one of the ways I tried to temper against that was to make it first person. So this is my story. I'm telling you as a practicing Sikh how I understand and how I try and live by the faith. But I also understand that by virtue of the practice of putting a book out into the world, and particularly a book on a tradition that doesn't exist otherwise, this is the book people will read. And so that is going to be, just given the context, it's going to have that homogenizing effect. Like, I'm the Sikh dude that people know, and so they're like, my story is the one they're going to believe. And so it's a really tricky position for me to be in, and I try to be as sensitive to all of these complexities as I can be, but aware that it's not going to come out perfectly. Maybe that's that's my honest answer to the question. Yeah.
And the book's not only a personal reflection, it's clearly a journey, right? You talk about your own growth and changing, growing into faith, family, all the journeys that we're on this particular faith and giving, generosity kind of journey. We have one last question here, and then I'll see if we can have any last summit of thoughts together.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for your thoughts. It's been really interesting hearing you all. I wanted to kind of bring it back to Indianapolis, if you have any thoughts specifically on Indianapolis. I was raised in southern Indiana, and when I moved back to Indy a few years ago, a lot of people were like, why would you move back to Indiana? And there's this perception of the Midwest, which largely can be true, white, Christian, heteronormative. And as I've begun to get to know Indianapolis as a city, I've realized how beautiful it is and how diverse it truly is. And I feel like it really erases so much of the diversity of the Midwest when we have, sometimes we paint it with a broad brush. So I was wondering if you have any stories of maybe interfaith cooperation, or just specifically of Indianapolis or the Midwest in general. I know you're not necessarily, maybe you don't have a local Indy story, but anything that encourages you about religion within Indianapolis and the diversity. Thank you so much.
One thing that I would say that you have to read right now is Edward Curtis's latest work on Arab Indianapolis.
Yeah.
It is fantastic because it really challenges and transforms the way that we think about the Midwest, the way that we think about interfaith cooperation, the way that we think about race and racial formation and identity, and it does all of the things that you're asking. And he kind of takes us through a kind of a narrative of the 19th and the 20th century in this work. So I mean, and he's also looking at contemporary examples of the way in which this community still exists, Arab Christians, Arab Muslims, you know, and I mean, it's a beautiful, nuanced and textured kind of local story about Indiana and Indianapolis. So I would say that's just one start to kind of, for you to kind of just take some time and to read and to kind of engage in that way.
I am a new Hoosier, relatively new Hoosier. And I say that so many times, it's such a nice word, Hoosier. So I'm from Michigan. We don't have a nice word like that. But we have a better football team. I moved here from New York City. Actually used to live a few blocks from where you live now. And so when people said, you're moving to Indianapolis, that idea is absurd. I have to say I'm really happy here. And the reason why I think it's good to be here is there is so much energy here to make change. There is a lot of change that's also needed. And so when I talk to my students who are excited about doing all of this social justice work that you're talking about and you're doing, they say, okay, we have to move to New York, we have to move to California. And I said, no, you need to move to Indiana. Because it is a place where there is so much space to be creative. I think it's often in the most difficult spaces for progressive activists where they can be and are challenged to be more innovative and more creative and scrappy and doing the work on the ground. And so I have felt like, as an organizer, when I'm not a professor, I'm a progressive feminist Asian American organizer, there is so much opportunity to build here that I don't see anywhere else I've ever lived.
Yeah, so I won't give you an Indiana specific example, but I'll give you an example of Texas because I moved back there for a few years after finishing my Ph.D. And I got the same questions of like, why would you want to move back there? And there was something happening there that I hadn't seen happening anywhere else I'd been, which is the mayor who had been recently elected was starting a new initiative called Compassionate USA. And I met with him and I was like, what is this about? Like, is this a real thing? Do you actually care? Or is this a political? I mean, I didn't say it that way, but that was what I was trying to figure out. And the case he made to me was a really compelling argument for why compassion is the building block of public policy. And that was such an unexpected moment for me right after I'd moved back to Texas, which was like, oh yeah, like these things are happening everywhere and we're just sort of like operating on our assumptions that they only happen in certain parts of the country. And so it's true that there's opportunity everywhere to make that change, but it's also actually happening in places that we don't realize right under our noses. So.
And I would underscore all that my colleagues have said and add, here in Indianapolis in the state of Indiana, our civic leaders and our faith communities are at work seeking to do the work of healing this world. And so there's brokenness all around us, but there's also deep conversation amongst the civic leader and the faith communities about what needs to be rebuilt, where's the creativity, where are the resources, where's the abundance, and how can we sit together around the table and engage in conversation to heal this broken world, which is so deeply loved, full of very soulful Hoosier people and others. And we're doing the work here. And it's a real privilege to live here and to have these conversations together with these thoughtful people and to be gathered here tonight.
Libby, do you want to lead us into any last words? We were grateful for you all being here. Melissa, Joseph, Simran, I think, and Libby, I think if we can give a round of applause.
You bet. And to continue that practice of gratitude, would you join me in thanking the Center for Interfaith Cooperation for their participation in tonight's event? Thank you. As well as the audience and your participation, your presence here tonight. We give thanks for that. Please know that out in the lobby, Simran's book is available to everyone tonight. The Light We Give, it is a wonderful investment of $28, so know that that's available to you. And then on the screen behind us, there is going to be a QR code. If you will scan that QR code and complete the evaluation, there is a gift for you on the other side of that evaluation, resources that will allow you to keep reflecting on generosity. So give us your feedback as to how we can continue to host meaningful events for our city and learn more about Lake and the Lake Family School of Philanthropy. I also want to offer a word of deep, deep gratitude to our friend and colleague, Tasha Gibson. Friends, would you join me in giving thanks for Tasha? All of her work that goes into putting in a wonderful evening like this. And again, to our distinguished visitor, Simran Jeet Singh, thank you for being here tonight. All right, go in peace and have a wonderful evening, friends.